As ready? I guess I am.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Good morning.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale. This is insane.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. The show that never ends. It's St. Patrick's Week, as the title card says. This was taken from 2 shows ago, not yesterday, but the day before, when I had the lights on in the studio, which I don't often do, but I'm not in the mood for the lights. In fact, what I'm trying to do now, and I don't see it showing, for some reason, my camera, let's see, if we arm it, there we go. This is a live view. I'm going to give you a live view of the outside. The colorization's a little bit weird. But as you can see, there's snow. That's a neighborhood, by the way. That's my porch. But you can see my porch is covered with snow. The street's still covered with snow. The fact that it looks yellow, I have no idea. That's the night vision of the camera that's on. I can't really do anything about that. It's one of these security cameras, and make sure it's disarmed. Oh, you can see my secret numbers, but those aren't my really secret numbers. Anyway, that's that. I have to disconnect that, otherwise that just stays on. So yes, we've got snow, and you can see when you look out at camera 2 up there, that was camera 3. 3-camera system, like the old Desilu system. They invented, I believe they were the ones that invented the 3-camera system, Lucy. A real crappy documentary on Amazon Prime, was it? Or Netflix? I think it was Amazon Prime. That I started to watch, but it just wasn't that good. In any event, here I am. Now the real time is 4:56 a.m. Eastern Time on the 13th of March in the calendar year 2022. So you heard me right. It's 4:56. It's coming up on 5 a.m. because we set the clocks ahead today, now, or you should have. I think technically at 2 a.m. is when you're supposed to do it, or something like that. So I woke up thinking it was 4, close to 4, and it was really 3. But like I say, it's really coming up on 5. It's 4:56 a.m. And, what can I say? Let me repeat this thing. A little bit of old Ireland. You can see the Guinness hat in the background. Anyway, we don't let that keep going. St. Patrick's Day is Thursday. So, I don't know. I haven't been drinking since like Christmas, really, or something like that, close to that. It's kind of cold down here today. I overdid it yesterday shoveling, and I don't know, I kind of dehydrated myself or something. So I was like, had that thing where if I bend down and get up quick, I get dizzy. Just another thing to add to the list The doctor said it had to do with hydration or something. But you know how you get a heart attack? You know, people get, so many people a year get heart attacks shoveling snow. And yesterday, snow was real heavy, and I did it really quick because I just wanted to get it over with. I just wanted to move some snow out of the way. But as you could see from that earlier vision of camera 3, there's still a lot of snow out there. But it's a Sunday, and I'm not expecting any deliveries. You know, sometimes Amazon delivers on a Sunday. Nobody's coming by. Tomorrow, I believe the temperature is going to be 54 degrees. Let's see what the temperature today is going to be. It's going to be cloudy and like in the teens all morning long. So I'm not going out there. I'm not going to kill myself. I mean, tomorrow, you know, the high is going to be like 34, so just around freezing. With that wind, it'll have a wind chill, so it'll definitely be freezing, Celsius, 0, 32 Fahrenheit, whatever you want to say. But tomorrow, allegedly, like I say, the weather's been so off. They're talking about partly cloudy this week in the 50s and low 60s. Overnights in the 30s and 40s. So since it's going to be 54 supposedly on Monday, I'll just wait till Monday to do anything, you know? It was like real blustery and windy. So I don't even want to see. There's probably buried under the snow like more shingles from my roof, which just could be, you know, the potential for, you know, a disaster. This is that stuff I've been taking, by the way. It's like Chanca piedra. It says N-hydrangea. I never knew hydrangea was added, but it says supports healthy kidney and gallbladder function. But I'm not sponsored by this. I don't recommend this stuff. You'd have to talk to a, you know, dietitian, nutritionist, doctor, you know. But it's been around forever, and I think it's Peruvian, so I believe that Chanca piedra, if I'm pronouncing it even right, means stone breaker in Peruvian. You know, whatever that. So, just thought I'd share that with you. I talk about these things sometimes, and then I forget to bring them on to show you. This is one of the times I remember. I usually do remember to show you. I'm just drinking black coffee today, too, by the way. Because I had a little episode there where I was cleaning the litter box. I think I may have figured out why the cat is like getting in my face and licking me. I think he's hungry. Like he's not eating. A friend of mine brought down this high protein stuff that she feeds her cats. And so I was putting that in his bowl. His whole life he's been a nighttime grazer. You know, like he just goes and he gets hungry and goes down and has something to eat. But for some reason he just won't eat this stuff. You know, no matter what. And when I gave him like a half a can of food this morning, wet food, he just like gobbled it down to the ground. Usually he just licks it dry. This he like ate it. He was like he's starving. So I had some of this moist, more expensive food she also brought down that I put in the refrigerator, and I just put that in his bowl. The only problem with leaving that, I left that in overnight though one time. And that just like kind of shriveled up by the morning. It dries out because it's like this moist stuff. That's why you have to keep it refrigerated. So I don't know if I need to get another bag of his old food, but he wasn't eating that either. But now, I don't know. You know, I'm puzzled. And if he was really starving, there was this like wet food left in like stuff, but I think it had some pumpkin or something in it. It's like for cat food for seniors. And anyway, I just thought I'd fill you in on that. Those who are
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Following me because of, you know, my tales, the trials and tribulations, and with the cat and stuff like that. And I know the numbers on this particular channel look low, but I'm on like 4 different video channels. And the numbers, which would seem counterintuitive, because you think YouTube, big, great, glorious YouTube. But oddly enough, I have videos on other channels, and they get, 3, in some cases 10 times as many. Actually, in some cases, 20 or 30 times as many views. Yeah. One channel I get 30, I have already gotten, like, in many cases, 30 times more views. 30 times, not 30. 30 times more views. But on average, I get like 10 times more views on one of the other channels. And another channel's like kind of still higher than this. So YouTube is like my lowest, but I use YouTube because it's currently syncs live with my open source software that allows me to have all these titles and graphics on the screen, and I can run that through the YouTube studio. And I don't edit this show. It's live, right? And then I could download the file, and then I could put that up elsewhere. It's actually really a pain. Because, it's like the time to download it. Then I have to upload it to another site. And then I have to re-put in like a different size title card. One of these things, like the title card I took from 2 shows ago. St. Patrick's Week. And, and fill in information and do all that stuff. So it's a download, upload, and work. And that's one site. And if I do it to 3 other sites, so you could literally spend, hours. It's not like you have to sit in front of the computer during the download and the upload process. But, you got to keep an eye on it. So, in other words, your computer's pretty much dominated during the day, for that. Which is why I went live in the first place, because I got tired of doing produced videos that were taking me 6 hours out of the day. But those where I was actually almost, directly involved. So, I don't know. I didn't sleep well at all last night, though. The cat just kept me up. It apparently didn't like that pumpkin wet food. It was like one of these bags, softer food. That's his thing he's into. Usually it's his favorite. But it was like, I don't know, seafood and pumpkin or something. Pumpkin's supposedly good for their renal system or something. Maybe I shouldn't have given him the whole bag of that. But it's not a treat. It's a meal. But in the future, there's a couple others with that pumpkin in it. I'm just going to have to just put out a little bit of it. Enough just to make sure that he's not developing any crystals. If people understand, you got to take care of your pets. And because, to tell you the truth, veterinarians are like doctors in the medical profession these days. They're pushing a lot of pills. They're good for emergency situations, right? Interventions. But the rest of the time, the checkup stuff, they're just as confused as you are. And so you almost end up, you go in there and you could spend $200 or more, some people. And you walk out, not knowing much more than you knew going in. So it's like you have to learn as much as you can. It's like I say, you keep a little note card, ask them questions, and whatever they give you a firm answer with, the same with your own doctor. Then write that down or go in with questions and see how many answers you get. And then keep that stuff handy and try to work with that. But it's like, this is the case. I was thinking about this today. In more ways than one, not just food and health and nutrition and, quality of life. But I guess, it is quality of life in general. is that we really reached a point now where the quality of life is based on how much money you have. And I'm not talking about having, something that's, luxury items and this bling bling, whatever, if they still even use that term. I don't know if they do or not. I don't care. But no, just basically, the standard, what you would call creature comforts of life. And that means eating healthy, living somewhat comfortable, having an internet that's not spotty, not being, it's like the more money you have, the better everything is. And it's like we've allowed our society to get to that point. Now, that's not to say that you can't fight that. Like I say, I do the best I can, but when you're suffering with illnesses or you're trying to find answers for something, you can't, you're basically under the thumb of these people, the whole financial setup and the way they've structured it. So, yeah, you've got to take notes. You've got to become, use those if you're paying somebody, for some service, doctor, whatever, lawyer, any kind of professional service, even just some, I don't know, somebody at a box store where you ask a question about, a particular material or something. And if you could find an expert that actually knows the answer, who isn't like iffy, well, I'm not sure about that. And yeah, maybe that might, this moment they start looking like they don't know more than you, or they don't know, then just, say, okay, well, thanks, and walk away. My abdomen hurts today. And like I said, I didn't feel well. I ate some ice cream, and I guess I went off my strict diet, nutrition, health kick, and then I overdid it with the shoveling. And basically probably could have had a heart attack it was like having a stress test, I guess. So I survived it. But I could tell I was having, my heart was beating fast and stuff like that. It took a while to get down. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that for health, for quality of life, for just general living and everything, for some people they're going, we know this already. But also a lot of people don't. I mean, I didn't expect, I kind of trusted people before I got, involved where I was involved with nutrition and surgeons and the medical profession and, and certain other things, even gardening and but other things, advice about your house, repairing things, even my leaky roof and stuff. And, I did the thing that you're not supposed to do. I assumed that, that people would tell you the truth. And of course, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. That's what assume stands for. But so, yeah. It happens to us all, but the earlier you learn the lesson, the better you are, because man, there's a lot of so-called professionals out there that just don't know what the hell they're talking about. They really don't. Yeah, the room looks pretty interesting there in my thumbnail with all the lights up. But it's just too bright for early in the morning. And like I say, it's 5:12 a.m. right now, but it's, it's still technically 4, from our body's clock standpoint. So anyway, that's that. Today's going to be a free flow of consciousness show. I don't have anything special planned for you other than I did want to talk about some of these issues affecting us for those who care about it. I mean, I know things out there are getting worse for a lot of people. And I know I had a couple shows this past week, yesterday and a show prior to that, I forget which one exactly, where I was kind of on it, not kind of, but I was definitely on a downer. And the idea was that, I'm not going to make apologies for it. It was like I always say, it's like this is 30 frames per second, so it's a true 30 frames per second. And, if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm not going to hold back. And, I'm just going to express myself. Why not? I mean, it's really up to us. We're the masters of our own destiny right now, as far as figuring our way, navigating through this insanity that's transpiring right before our eyes. And I know there's a lot of people that are still, they just don't see it. And they're not going to see it until it really hits them at home. But sooner or later, like I say, unless you're wealthy. But I think this time around, even the wealthy are going to feel the pinch. Because as an economy starts to unravel, we have this propped up economy that, there's nothing you can do about it. And so even the wealthy, and when I call the wealthy, I don't mean the billionaires. They're not wealthy. They're billionaires, or the like multi-millionaires, like people who have tens or hundreds of billions of dollars. No, I'm talking about somebody just making 6 or 7 figures. There's somebody might have, 1.2 million, couple million, 600,000, Some people think they're upper middle class. They make 80 or 90,000. But anywhere from the high double, 80,000 to 2 million, say. It's a pretty big wide range, but it depends on where you live that how much that money really means. For some people you would go, wow, $2 million, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but if you live in an area where your rent, or mortgage or whatever is $5,000 or $10,000 a month, or some people pay $20,000 a month mortgages and stuff. Okay, well, that's like $250,000 a year just for your rent, so to speak. So, it's all relative to your geographic location, type of job you have, right, and all of that stuff. I mean, some people can live. I live at the poverty level. But I survive, and sometimes I can afford myself a few, I wouldn't call them luxuries, but a few things here or there that, comforts. Right now it's not going the greatest, and I think having that attitude, and is also not a good thing. That's not good for your health. And as I told someone, like, I'll just show you this. I left my email on, which I'm going to turn off, but it's just a display capture here to just show you this email. That's like Lauren Chen. She has a channel on Rumble. I don't know if you can see that. Anti-Russian insanity. Musicians banned, citizens targeted. How does this help Ukraine? You know. And it's the truth, you know. Why is it that, I mean, it's, to bring up the idea, the internment of the Japanese during World War II is just too cliche and overused. But, but it still, gets the point across. Why do we, because this happened during 9/11, anybody from the Middle East was having a problem, we're being kind of like, that people have to target groups, right? Scapegoat people, ethnic groups, religious groups, whatever. And, instead of just approaching the issue itself and just saying, well, just end the thing already, But I don't want to get into that today. I talked about that so much. If you go through the last week, actually, it's interesting. The videos I've done this year, if someone wanted to pick and choose and go through some of these classic videos, even in just the past week or two, if you really want to know what's going on in the world and as far as, socioeconomic, geopolitics, the environment issues, energy, inflation, markets, the corporatocracy, the structure, corruption, government, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I've covered all that stuff so in depth. And in time, what's happened, it's kind of had this snowballing, building up effect to where with each passing show, what might seem repetitive to some people, one show would build upon the other. It's like yesterday, I can't stress enough, one thing interesting, and it happens early in the show, so you don't have to watch the whole program. Just by chance, because I wing these things. These shows are completely unscripted. I just said, let's go look at windmills. I'm curious because I know there's these windmill fails, right? Because windmills are all starting to fail. And I'm not going to get back into the whole thing, so we decided to go, take you along for the ride, as I say, put you on the, take you to the websites and put it on the screen. And it was like unbelievable. At one point, there was an image of they said millions of windmills in Canada were just rusting away. It was like a windmill graveyard. And I know in California they have some windmill graveyards. I always thought, well, I knew these things were starting to fall apart because they've been up for a while, because it was Obama was giving these $1 million tax breaks and handouts to these big utility companies, who in turn were supposed to lower our electric rates, but they raised them. So I would figure, okay, you'd see 100, maybe 1,000 or more, of these things starting to fail. I had no idea it's in the, tens, hundreds of thousands, and that there's ultimately between the U.S. and Canada, there's millions of these things that are just junk, scrap metal. They're unfixable. They're old, outdated. They've updated the systems of them, but now you've got these landscapes filled with them. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. I had spoken about this many times in the past, but that was the first time where we actually went and we looked at picture after picture after picture of these crazy, insane disasters. And it's like, that's it. Case closed. Like, there is no answer. We have new and improved version. It doesn't matter, man. How are you going to take down these million of them that are already on these landscapes, on these farms, all along these highways, some in the oceans, right? Replace them. Where are you going to get the fossil fuel for those large cranes and those things necessarily to raise or to pull down these heavy engines, the generators or the propeller repair? See, I mean, there's no way. It's basically it was a major, well, let's call it what it is. It was a major fuck up. And that guy T-Bone Pickens, if he's still alive, I don't know if he was. He was a very old guy when he was pushing it, but he may well be alive. Those type of people, they keep in oxygen. They sleep in oxygen pumped into their bedrooms and have a hospital room next to their bedroom. It's like Biden didn't even know his own name and like was wandering aimlessly, and his wife had to grab him by the arm and put him, grab him. He was going in the wrong direction, and now he's making a speech. What's he getting? Blood every week, getting a blood transfusion from one of those publicly traded companies. I think there's at least one that's publicly traded that basically gives 18, 20-year-old blood transfusions to these, 80-year-old people, right? And probably, these drugs they're getting from the Walter Reed Army Hospital doctors, who are some of the best in the world. It's stuff you wouldn't get if you got ill. My dad died from Alzheimer's, complications from Alzheimer's. And they weren't giving him he didn't turn into like a Biden. Right? You see all these wealthy people, and when you see this, so and so died yesterday at the age of 99. Right? And they were on like the Tonight Show or one of the late night talk shows just a year prior at 98, or they're out golfing at something. And that's all part of what I was like, kind of this like subtle theme for this show. I mean, I have under here, you don't have to be Irish, have fun. And that's part of the whole thing, St. Patrick's Week. But it is the idea that you just got to have fun. And but you have to accept this in the backdrop that don't let it get you down, because if you don't have the money, you're not going to get the best health care. You're not going to get, live in the best neighborhood. I mean, a lot of this is common sense. You're not going to get, the right car or the best care for your car, the right mechanic who's going to go to the mechanic that is going to really look at certain things. And that's nothing against mechanics. I know there are probably good mechanics out there in bad neighborhoods and, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? It's like everything is wrong above me there. It's a generalization, but generally it's true. And when I say you don't know what you don't know, and all these slogans I have on my shirts, and then it's then what, because that's the answer to all the questions of the day. All these people who are like saying, let's save America, build back better, the Great Reset, or like, the protesters, we want this, we want that. And my answer is that shirt or hoodie. Then what? It's like my book. Then what? They don't have an answer. You know what I mean? It's protest for protest's sake. Like I've said, so many times, and I'll say it again. These people are 2 times removed from the civil rights movement, feminist movement, and they don't even understand, like, the peace and love era, the 60s, summer of love, the end of the Vietnam, the war. You don't see these people out there, doing like. You know what I mean? You see that happening like with this Ukraine war with the young people, BLMers, right? These anarchists, whatever they call them, fascist, they call them Antifa, but they're actually fascists themselves. But they're 20, 30 somethings. That means they have no connection they weren't born, and chances are their parents weren't born when the Vietnam War was going on. Or they were infants. In some cases, if they're the youngins, you see young ones out there, real young. Their grandparents probably barely remember the Vietnam War and the protests and anti-war protests. They don't remember Martin Luther King Jr. They don't remember that kind of stuff. They probably don't even know who Helen Gurley Brown is. Right? They don't understand that, all these battles were fought and won. And that and I say it all the time, by the late 70s, it was a beautiful time. Because all that stuff was behind us. And then we came into this heavy-duty materialistic world in the 80s, The MTV generation, the hippies turned into yuppies, and, and look what they did, right? So, it's St. Patrick's week, and it's a week to just, like I say, despite what I'm saying now, don't get down, because this is pub talk. There's always a guy like me talking to pub talking about this stuff. But, hey, get out and have some fun. And realize it's the simple things in life that can make a difference. And it's community and friendship, and sitting around and having a Guinness, with somebody. Listening to some music. I got to turn this. I left my mail on. I was wondering why my CPU was shooting up to 12. But, so that's that theme of the show, St. Patrick's Week, is like enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But, a lot of people are in for a big surprise, because let me just, just for the sake of it, because I haven't done this in a little bit. But.
People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
It's great. It never fails. But, yeah, you're in for a really big surprise,
It's really funny. Really funny.
It's not funny, though. But, it not if you have the right mindset. It's okay to be depressed every now and then, and certainly if you watch yesterday's show, I was depressed. But, so that's human nature. Why not? What are you going to do? Sometimes you get overwhelmed with things and stuff, and, it just gets crazy. But, the simple things in life, are the ways of getting out of it. Like I always say, the best times you probably ever had in your entire life, you probably weren't wearing a stitch of clothes and didn't have anything materialistic or near you or any kind of computerized thing near you, right? Just put yourself, on a beach somewhere on a towel in some island making love, or in a bedroom with, naked with somebody you love, in the middle of making love, right? Or waking up with somebody and looking, at a sunrise, or as the sunlight comes through the window and stuff like that. These are the things in life, humans relating to other humans. It's not just sexual. It's the whole idea, like if people who have families and stuff, like the birth of their child and stuff like that. Or watching their child go through certain, milestones in their life, and and having that feeling, of happiness for that individual, or or just the concept of being in love, or just even just having camaraderie, just having a bunch of friends, or and doing something. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't have to be something, and like I say, it's in many cases these things don't have to be, it's like it doesn't involve a lot of money or a lot of materialistic things. And it doesn't involve even a smartphone or anything like that. The big tech companies hate when people talk like that. Just like the fast food people hate that kind of stuff, sitting around, by a campfire with some popcorn, or toasting marshmallows on the beach, or hanging out in your backyard, just grilling cheap ass hot dogs or burgers or something, right? The point of the matter is, it's humans relating to humans, just living life. Maybe even being by yourself, laying back, kicking back in some place where you could see the stars and just being amazed. Or like we get those pictures from Trey sometimes, as sunset pictures. Walking along a beach by yourself or something and watching the sunrise, or sunset if you're on the West Coast. You know what I mean? People who hike mountains, climb mountains, it's like stuff like this. I played this the other day, and I've got it somewhere here. You don't want to waste too much time, but here it is. Yeah, this was an expedition that I covered. I played this a couple days ago, but it's worth playing again because different groups of people listen to these shows. And this is a woman who was hiking. Well, just listen to it. And she's calling in a dispatch, which I was relaying and pushing over the internet live.
Hi, this is Casa on the Toyo OU expedition. We've, in less than a week, left Kathmandu, experienced the craziness of the crossing of the Chinese border. We've gone from low jungle waterfall lands up into the high Tibetan plateau. We're sitting in the desert now and looking at a blue sky day. The team's doing great, and we'll keep you updated. Thanks, bye.
Imagine that. I mean, a blue sky day, up in the Himalayas, hikers, people hiking, mountain climbers, climbing the peaks, and so, and all I had with them with their backpacks and, their tents all folded up and that stuff, just hiking up there, And I still haven't been able to dig it out, but I still want to get this one where a guy who made it, who called me, well, actually it was Chris Erickson, who's also a good nature photographer, but that he hit the peak alone in one of these expeditions, and he called me, and I have that on audio somewhere, but I just haven't been able to dig it out of my archives yet. I have so much audio. I literally have thousands of those kinds of clips, and they're not all that short. What happens is that's a clip within a clip, because I would be covering an expedition and they would be passing a satellite phone is what we were using, because that's the only way you could communicate from like these mountaintops and stuff. And that different team members would be passing, a satellite phone around, and I'd have all this stuff rigged up to my, setup. But so going through that stuff is like, it's something I want to do. I mean, I have enough to make a movie, because I have video footage from different expeditions from the North Pole, from the Himalayas, and from Antarctica and the South Pole. And so between audio, still photos, videos, and all these dispatches and stuff, it really, I could do a feature movie. But I definitely would need to have some assistance, helping me go through all that material because there's just so much of it. So I don't know, maybe someday. But my computer's becoming outdated, and, that's another complaint, where I talk about the quality of life. It's like Apple and Adobe, in order to use certain software, they want to extort money from you every month, like in Adobe's case. Apple's got new chips, and one could say, oh, yeah, but they're great chips and stuff. Yeah, but, the Apple computer, the base model might be $199.99, but the one you really need is the one that's like $39.99 or whatever. I mean, you really need to spend about $5,000 minimum. You get the monitor, it's probably, you could be looking at anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to get the decent full setup if you wanted to use their equipment to make a movie feature length movie, edit it and use all the effects to improve. A lot of this stuff was shot back. I did a lot of this stuff back in the 90s, late 90s and stuff. Some of this stuff's almost 25 years old. So the files are, need to be cleaned up, and things like that. Video needs to be worked at, and then not to mention tracking down these people and getting permission to use certain photos. A lot of these guys who have taken these photos have appeared in magazines like Ski Magazine or, skiing, whatever, all these classic adventure magazines. I think National Geographic, a couple of these guys have been in and stuff like that. I mean, that's the caliber of these people I used to work with. These were the explorers, who literally walked to the South Pole, walked to the North Pole, climbed this, the 7 summits, so to speak. And then we also went to the Amazon, and I have a lot of stuff on that, footage and audio and still photos. So it's some of the most classic adventure stuff, on the planet, from the Himalayas to the Amazon rainforest to the North Pole to the South Pole. I mean, yeah. And then even, some of the peaks and skiing in the U.S. and, in the Northwest and stuff. So it was an interesting chapter in my life. It was enjoyable. The internet was very young back then, and I was just one of the few guys who was able to put together a system dealing with a lot of satellite equipment. It wasn't so much internet, because the internet was in its infancy and modems were like, still using dial-up and stuff in a lot of cases. And so what I was using was I was using satellites, the type of satellites that they would use out on oil platforms, like in the Gulf, like the rigs and stuff. I got a hold of that kind of equipment. And I researched it and put it together and tied it into some computers and computer graphic and video programs and was able to do this kind of thing. And I've said this before, and in many cases, what was really interesting at that time, you had one of the Gulf Wars going on, and a lot of Middle Eastern turmoil, because from the 90s through to there's still war going on. But I mean, you'd see these network and cable TV people talking to their reporters out in the field in the Middle East or in these foreign lands. And sometimes it would just be a still picture of the person. But if it had the video was real choppy and poor. And, but me with the equipment I was using at the same time, I was better than the networks. And it always puzzled me, and I used to say to everybody who was on the teams and stuff, I would say that. I'd say, our stuff's better than CBS and, the major and these other cable channels and stuff, who actually had these big, big equipment. Though I'll tell you one thing. I think I've only shown this once before. I do have one of the cameras that we used. This camera here was actually in the Himalayas, the South Pole, the North Pole. There actually, this isn't even the whole thing. On the top of this, there was like a microphone, a mic that came out like this as well. But this was one of the cameras that we used. This is could be a Smithsonian piece, because it's actually been to the North Pole. How many, to the South Pole, to the Himalayas, to this may have made it down to in the Amazon too. This was one of our cameras. But I have all that stuff, and it's just me, man. Just me alone, trying to keep my cat healthy, trying to keep myself healthy. And, and I've got these computers, and they're older, and the new computers are real expensive. I'm sorry for, when I dip down like that, I'm drinking coffee, and the frame of this camera doesn't show much. Let's see if this is the wide-angle lens or not. I don't know if it is or not. Hold on a second. Kind of shows how messy the place is and blurs it up. But see, at least now, and it distorts things. But, this is my shack, But, like I said, watch how big suddenly I get. Boom. Yeah, the problem with these things, it's a clip on. You can clip it on. They're made for your smartphone cameras. Of course, the new smartphone cameras use multiple lenses, so I don't know how well they are. I actually have a zoom. Check this out. Look at that. I use this in my backyard to take photos of birds from my smartphone and close-ups of bees on flowers. It's like a telephoto lens for a smartphone. I don't know if but like I say, they've changed the smartphones now. They have 4 things on the back, and they're all doing things. So I don't know if that kind of stuff would even work on it. So they've changed, though there is that new old, their so-called cheap smartphone that seems to have just a single camera on the back. It's 12 megapixels, which is pretty good. But it's $400 some. Who can afford that? I can't. I can't afford $400 for a phone. And that would just be the phone. Like I said, I can't afford $5,000 or more for the new system. See, because the monitor I have is a Thunderbolt or a Thunder something. It doesn't. They don't write it on it, but it's an outdated monitor, just like this new monitor that Apple made. This is an Apple monitor, and it's a 27-inch or something. I mean, it's big. Because I used to it was enough for me to have 2 pages of the magazine I was publishing, so I could work on a full spread of the magazine. It cost $1,000 then when I bought it. Picture's still good. And it's glass, But it's outdated. It doesn't work with other Macs. This is the thing I'm trying to say. They do this stuff. And so they make us, if we're not wealthy, like I say, forget about the billionaires. A billionaire can have whatever the heck they want. They're in a class of their own. They're not going to be affected by anything. But, if you're making like even six figures and there's supply chain disruptions and food shortages. I saw a thing yesterday on a YouTube guy. Give him credit. It was BP Earthwatch. I think that's what he goes by. His name's like BP. He's a musician, but he's been doing this stuff for years. They kick him off here and there, but he always comes back. But he had a clip that he took from a clip of a video that someone else shot, so it was secondhand, but still, at least he brought it out because I have no idea who the other one. And it was a trucker pointing to the pump that he had just put 20, a lot of these rigs will take 30 gallon, I don't know how, 300 gallons? I don't know how many gallons. I have to ask my buddy Tattoo, who used to mess around with that stuff for a while. But anyway, he was at the gas station, filling up with diesel, and he wasn't filling up. He just was like filled 2/3 of his tank, and he was pointing, to the pump, and the cost was $1,052. And what this BP guy was relating to what that guy had said in the video, I didn't see the original video. I just saw what the still from BP of this guy pointing to what he had to pay, $1,052, and it wasn't even a fill up, right? And that guy was saying, "Wait till you see the prices you're going to be paying for your groceries and the things you buy." Because if it's costing, like I said, that wasn't a full tank fill up. And, these guys are going, coast to coast in many cases. This stuff, these containers are coming in from, down San Diego way in those ports. And these guys are riding this stuff across, 40 or 80, to get it to the East Coast. Higher population centers, even Chicago, but then further east to New York or Philly, Pittsburgh, Ohio, D.C., Boston. Think about New England. Think about something coming from like Southern California going to Boston. The distance, and how many fill-ups. And then the items that are inside that rig. That truck, that container in the back of that rig. And, people haven't even thought about that yet. And they think that these truckers were just like complaining about, mandates and stuff like that. No, it's a far bigger issue than that. It's like, the cost. A lot of these guys are independents, in other words, and some of them are even like mom pop operations, You have those. Husband and wife, it's basically it. Behind the cab, you see those things, and there's like, they've got like a bunk back there, sleeping area, and they take turns. Crashing and sleeping, not the word crash isn't sleeping, but yeah. So that's happening, and that's part of inflation. That's not the only reason there's inflation, but that's like a part of it. That's the gas price and this war price of it. But the other inflation is, like I say, the Dollar Tree isn't a dollar store anymore. It's $1.25. That's 25% inflation. So where does the government get off saying, oh, inflation's only 7-something percent, 7.8%, whatever the heck they said? It's like they actually march out on stage, and these reporters just sit there, and not a single one waves their hand and says, but hasn't, if the price went up $1 a gallon from 3 to 4, isn't that a 25% inflation? If the Dollar Tree went from $1 to $1.25, isn't that 25% inflation? Increase. And that's just some stuff. Some things some prices have like doubled. Like I said, I was at the grocery store just 2 days ago. Yesterday, I couldn't do anything but shovel snow and nearly had a heart attack. But, you know, what was I saying? I just lost my train of thought. No, I was trying to say I was looking at, I always, when I go down there, it was like kind of a habit. It might have, if it wasn't the day before yesterday, it might have been the day before yesterday or day before that. I'll always buy like a can of, it's like a small can of tomato paste or a small can of sauce, like a personal size can. And they're usually like, I just get the stuff it says, ingredients, tomatoes, and sometimes citric acid as a preservative. Citric acid, that's fine. That's like vitamin C almost, I mean, that's what some people take for vitamin C. And the same with tomato paste. I'll always just get the stuff, generic, whatever store brand, where it says ingredients, tomatoes, right? And they'd be 39 cents for those off-brand, generic, store-brand tomato paste or sauce. And I would just always fill that. So I always had, I don't know, maybe a minimum of a half dozen of each in my cupboard. Sometimes more. Sometimes as many as 10 or 12 of each. Because, the idea is that's a great way. Because I always say, if the power goes out, and the power's gone out here a couple of times, it goes, and it does this all over the country, but people just don't talk about it. Our grid's in really bad shape. But if the power goes out, I've said before, your back grill, if you have a grill out back, you don't have to just cook hot dogs and hamburgers on there. You could take your pot, from your stove, and you don't even have to have charcoal or a gas thing. You could just put some wood, or cardboard box, cut up pieces from a cardboard box, just enough to get that water boiling. And you can make coffee or boil some water to make pasta, mac and cheese if you've got kids or something. You put a little can of sauce in there with the spaghetti. I used to always get the thin spaghetti and stuff because that stuff doesn't take long to cook. And you can make a meal in like 10 minutes, and it cost you next to nothing. The boxes of spaghetti they were selling those little half boxes, but it was almost like a pound of spaghetti for 88 cents or something like that. That stuff's all over $1 now. The sauces, though, were 95 cents, or the tomato paste. 95 cents. So that's like 2.5 times, So you're talking, that's inflation. And I don't buy a lot of things. I pretty much, and I think a lot of people are like that. You kind of settle into what you get. That's what brand loyalty is all about. You usually end up buying the same toothpaste, right? If you're a cereal person, you buy the same cereal or you buy the same, it's just how we are, You find something you like and you usually get it, right? So, but I've noticed with the stuff that I normally get, the prices in a lot of cases have doubled or more than doubled. And these stores that you go to, the prices have gone up. It's right in your face. And I don't understand. And then these people come out and say, inflation is like 7.8%. Have you been to the gas pump? Have you been to a store? See, these people don't. That's the thing. They don't. They live inside the Beltway. Their life is in a bubble. It's like the people on the news, Did you ever watch that morning show on Apple TV or something? It's like Jennifer Aniston or whatever. They're picked up from their hotel, condo type of apartment, whatever. And they're just rushed off in some SUV with darkened windows to the front door or back door or garage of the studio, and they go in. They're not, they're not out in the real world, really. If they need something, they have some assistant that's like fills their refrigerator. Hey, Janie or Martha, don't forget, I need some yogurt and we're having a party on Friday. I'm having some guests over. Get me a bottle of Merlot and Pinot, It's like they don't know what it's like out there. And they don't pay attention to the price because they're making tens of millions of dollars. And like I say, and then you're giving to the political campaigns of these cult of personality people, and you don't understand that money goes to putting ads on those channels that aren't swaying anybody to vote for your candidate, but just making that announcer that that annoys you is like giving them an increase in salary. Paying for their Pinot Grigio or whatever the heck it is. I don't know. Pinot Noir. I think that has the highest resveratrol in it, actually. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, about resveratrol, not Pinot Noir or whatever. The thing about resveratrol is it's healthy for you, but you literally need to have a doctor prescribe or a nutritionist, somebody officially get you a supplement, because in order to get enough of it to really have, serious health or anti-aging effects, it would be the equivalent of like 100 glasses. I mean, the human body couldn't even, you can't even, if you drank that much water, you'd die, So, but yeah, it's, it's St. Patrick's week. And, I look at this, to me, it's the holiday season. I was looking for that clip and I couldn't find it. It's the holiday season. Remember, I was doing that for about 30 days. And somehow I lost track of that song. And I don't know what happened to it. Because I know I had it and it was like, it was like somehow, edited down to fit. And I just can't find it. And I did a search for it the other day and I just could not find it. And I don't know what happened. So weird, And I'm looking at this stuff right now. I know it's annoying. But it's an Andy Williams tune. And when I did a search for Andy Williams, it just didn't show up. So I don't understand like what I would have done with it. I don't see why I would have deleted it. Do you see? Yeah. So it's like if I look at music, there's Halloween. Let's see. Maybe I didn't do the holiday season. Maybe it was just the
It's the holiday season.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It is there. Okay. So let's dig that out. Okay. It's a line from Happy Holidays. That song Happy Holidays, right? So, this is so ridiculous for the average person, but yeah.
It's the holiday season.
But you don't have to be Irish to know that
it's the holiday season.
It's St. Patrick's week, and why not, right? Have a ball, right? Have some fun. Have some Guinness. I got my Guinness hat in the back. I also have somewhere back there. I don't know where it got to, but I also have my. I've got another Shamrock hat. It's the holiday season. Yeah.
It's the holiday season.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Really funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I don't know. I guess it's getting better, Earlier I almost passed out because I was like, I don't know, Almost had a heart attack yesterday from like trying to shovel snow too fast, and my heart rate was up, and the cat, and I didn't sleep well. 6:02 a.m. That's the real time Eastern time now. So if you're getting up or watching this show somehow later, don't forget, you got to put your clock ahead. I have 4 clocks down here that I have to set. I have the one on my stove. Well, I did that one. But then I have a hanging one in my... Actually, wait. 1, 2... I still have 4 to set. Because I have one on top of my refrigerator, just a small one. I have one hanging in the kitchen on the other side of the wall. It's like one of these coffee cup, things. It's like a object dart. I have one in the restroom, and then I have a digital one above me, which I used to use because it's a big one in your face, but that one's still set, an hour behind. So I still have 4 clocks to set ahead an hour. A pain. Just stick with the same. Time is time. I mean, time's relative, but I mean, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, we got the holiday season.
It's the holiday season.
So enjoy, right? So don't let this me talking down about these, all these negative things. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is that all of these negative things, so-called negative things, are, they're not really things that control our lives so much. Is if, we're still the masters of our own destiny, if we want to be, right? It's like that Yoko Ono or, Lennon Ono line, war is over if you want it, right? Which goes back, to this time. It's just that people, if you want it, and if people don't want it, what are we going to do? It's like I was talking about crime. I mean, you're not going to get rid of, there's 2,000 murders a week in the U.S. or 40,000 people dying from poor health care in this country. And I'm talking about preventable, treatable, even curable diseases, 40,000 people. Well, when you think of Ukraine, however tragic, they're not 40,000 people dying a week over there. Do you see what I'm saying? How out of touch with reality people are. So we don't care if 40,000 people in America die every week. We don't care if 2,000 people are murdered, and most of those murders go unsolved. And that's just murder. That doesn't include arson, assault, rape, and all this smash and grab, opportunistic looting and all this other craziness that's going on. Right? The crime rate is out of control. And there's nothing you can do about it except, deal with some kind of stormtroopers or something, And that's why they're letting them have free reign over the cities. Excuse me. It's a tragedy. And so you just got to try to live in some kind of somewhat safe place. Take care of you and yours. Find happiness the best you can. It's the little things in life, the little moments, right? And you have to identify that and say, hey, I'm having a good time now or something. Or, I want to do this and look forward to a thing and have fun. And realize, it's like, even with the supply chain disruptions and all these problems and inflation and stuff we're facing, you still can get around it. I spent $69 for my entire month of March food. But it was well thought out and well planned, and I worked from lists that I made of what I needed. And I'm telling you, and some of the stuff is good. And in fact, some of the stuff I shouldn't have gotten. Like I even managed to throw in like one of those, not half gallon, I don't know, like a ice cream, some low fat ice cream and some stuff like that as a treat, which I shouldn't have gotten. I think that messed me up yesterday. Game over. But you just have to plan it. It's like I put in my book next to McGinnis hat. Where is it? There it is. I get rid of my title card. Monthly budget, which may seem like stupid to you, but I think I've got everything covered there for everybody. And that's why I always say get the print version of my book. It's not just to use this, it's the idea that you can make a couple Xerox copies of it. Actually, you should make 12 copies of it, of that page. And in these times, you really need to sit there and work with a budget. So I did have to work for you. There's another page I have in that book, like things that make you happy, things that make you unhappy. Your likes and dislikes page, a worksheet. But it's not a self-help book. It's just basically a free flow of consciousness. I mean, it's me. If I could get my thumb to that, yeah, there. And my other book, Codex, is also a free flow of consciousness. But that's what you got to look at. You got to examine. Those two particular sheets, and I'm sure there's language in there. I wrote that book last year. I mean, the question is whether I'll write a new book this year, because I wrote a book just about every year for the past 10 years. I have 10 books out. But those 2 pages alone, and like I said, and whatever verbiage goes with it, are the type of things, visual aids, worksheets that will help you, get through this thing. Because, things aren't going to get better, from a standpoint of what people are thinking of, like a cult of personality, political figure that's going to come in, ride a white horse and save the day. That's not going to happen. And I talked about that yesterday. It's just like on the people on the other side who are going, we're going to go to renewable energies. It's like I showed you yesterday that the entire windmill movement was like a great fail. It's a failure. And it should be stopped immediately. If there's any windmills in production right now, that should be completely stopped. And that solar panels are just as bad. Because the people who have these off-grid properties and stuff, they're never enough. Every one I've seen, they've ended up doubling or tripling their solar panels, and they have to, and it takes up just such a ridiculous amount of space. And so, what are you going to do? Where's your renewable energy? I mean, and besides, and the earth is cooling, we need stuff that could really produce thermal units, and that hasn't rung through to people yet. That it's cold, it's 14 degrees outside. I'm in the mid-Atlantic states. I'm not in the Northeast or Canada. I'm in the mid-Atlantic states. It's 12 degrees. Look at the camera. What happened to my, where's camera 2? Oh, there. Look at the camera 2 up there. All right. What does it say? What do you see? White. You see, that's the street actually, and the sidewalk across the street. Do you understand? You know? So, we've been lied to about everything. So the planet's getting colder. It's not getting warmer, right? Today we get hit with the CME. It's not necessarily a devastating one, but nonetheless, this is the second one in within a month or so. So, we have that problem. The Earth's magnetic field is weakening. These are the type of things that affect weather patterns. The sun affects, our climate, not what they're telling you on the media or the UN IPCC. Windmills, if you watch yesterday's show, anyone who believes in windmills after you see what I went through, forget it. That it's the biggest fraud propagated on the American people and the world. Solar panels are just not practical for mass production and heating the northern latitudes and cool. You know what I mean? In the South where it's sun all the time and people have a lot of, you've got the footage, you've got the ground, you've got the roof, big enough roof. Yeah. I have a solar panel on my little greenhouse to run the fan to cool that down. I'm all for solar. I have great solar stuff for helping you with, energy support, charging things like this Jackery that's controlling, my on-air sign and that other light back here with the Union Jack on it. But no, beyond that, if you take some building, managed care facility building, and you have solar panels on the roof, that's not enough to run where, every one of the units in there has, an HVAC system. They're running their own air conditioning and they have to run it 24/7 because it's like Florida or, or some other Gulf Coast state. And then there's a common kitchen that they've got to cook for all the residents of that place. And those chefs, they cook with gas. Well, they're going to use natural gas or propane tanks or whatever. It's still gas. You see what I mean? But then the energy secretary comes out and said, we need to switch to electricity. And it's like, yeah, but you got to make electricity. And the only way you're going to make electricity is from carbon-based fuels, which I call organic, plant-based fuels. That's what fossil fuels are. They call them fossil fuels. It's really not really what they are. It's a carbon-based fuel. And, in the U.S. is very energy efficient and very, in most cases, very clean. Our energy production is cleaner than a lot of other countries, most other countries. But things aren't going to change is what I'm trying to say. In fact, in many ways, as bad as things are right now, they're only going to get worse because it's an election year and the bureaucrats and the government are kind of trying to, keep the lid, pop goes the weasel. They're pushing down that thing. Right? They don't want that lid popping off. So they're holding that down with all their might. They're trying to tack weld that shut. But those tack welds aren't going to hold, because that's like a hydraulic, pump type of thing. It's going to blow that stack off once the election's over. And interest rates go up, price of housing's up, and then they're going to reassess. Wait do you see once the housing prices, now that housing prices are up, they're going to have something called reassessment, and then that's how they're going to get everybody to pay higher taxes. They're going to say, well, your house is worth more now, so you got to pay higher taxes. It's like if they come here and say, okay, you want to reassess my house? Walk up to the attic. You see those leaks? You see that? You want to say my house is worth more? Yeah, right. Of course, with my luck, they'll say, well, yeah, actually, house has to be condemned. You have to move out immediately. That'll be my luck. So inflation's just going to keep rising. And I don't know what, this war has got to end, I would imagine, eventually. But I don't know. I've been using the term sticking a stick in a hornet's nest, but it's like, NATO, they were all ready to meet and have and come to agreement. And then NATO and the U.S. started having war games in Poland and stuff, shooting missiles off and stuff like that. And you got a paranoid Putin to begin with, and he's watching them do this stuff, and he's like, no, well, okay, that's not, we're just going to keep bombing. So I don't know, man. I don't think things are going to change, And then Biden wants to make these deals with the devil, He's trying to get oil from dictators in Venezuela, right? Negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. And then he wants to, go back to the Middle Eastern, tried to get Middle Eastern oil, which will just open up that whole can of worms again. So these are crazy times, socioeconomic geopolitics, and Taiwan hasn't even emerged yet as China's going to make that move sooner or later. Nobody's even talking about Hong Kong. It's amazing how China got this somehow this free pass. They literally totally went back on the deal with Hong Kong. And they've just totally curtailed freedom there and just squashed that movement. And nobody cared. But it's Russia, 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 Russia. You know what I mean? Again, oh God. So anyway, I don't know. It's
the holiday season.
So you don't have to be Irish to have a Guinness. Just have some fun this week. I'm not saying you should drink or not drink, it's up to you. I'm not promoting anything. This show is for people, if you're an alcoholic or something like that, But I'm either going to my favorite Irish pub on St. Paddy's Day, which is Thursday, and if for some reason that doesn't, that's like a 50-50 chance because, I'm relying on someone else. I don't drive anymore. But if that doesn't happen, then I'll probably do a little live show. Special live St. Patrick's Day show. So I'll just come on briefly in the morning like I did last year, and then later on I'll do a live show with some, Guinness and some other stuff. I think I got somebody brought me a assortment pack of Straub that I got sitting on the porch right now. And I got to put that in the refrigerator. The porch stays kind of cool where I have it by the door. The farthest distance from where I keep my plants. Like in my plant room, I have these plastic sheets that come down. I have to take a picture of that to show you that, but I can't do that live. It's in the other room. I'm not on Wi-Fi. So I'm hardwired to my modem. I don't trust Wi-Fi. I use it, when I need it for some certain things, but I just use it sparingly. I don't have a cell phone. I mean, I have a cheap cell phone upstairs that I turn on once or twice a month. It's a real crappy Android that I got because I live below the poverty line. But it's not. It's a joke phone. It's useless. I use it if I have to go out of the house, on some appointment somewhere or something like that, where it requires me calling, to get a ride or something weird like that. Otherwise, I have my old iPhone 6. This is my iPhone 6. That's basically just uses a Wi-Fi, what they call voice over IP. I have a Wi-Fi app that I can make phone calls from. It costs me $40 a year. I mean, I'd love to have one of those new iPhones and stuff. The guy in me that likes, tech stuff and all this stuff. And you could see that I do, because I've got all this stuff. But in reality, I really don't have a use for it other than the camera. And I could probably buy a camera because I do like taking nature photography, particularly out of my backyard. But I could probably just buy a camera on Amazon for like $100 or so. I mean, I don't know, maybe not. Let's just take a look. Let's go to new window, Amazon, camera. I don't want security cameras. Geez, look at the price of these. Let's go from low to high. Oh, that's really low. Here we go. They don't have, let's see, I don't know. I want to be over here. Let's see. Video camera. Low to high. Now it's going to like freak out on me. Come on. It's like Amazon. Where's the prices? All right, here we go. Video camera, camcorder, full HD, 1080. Vlogging camera, recorder, inch IPS screen, 16-time zoom, camera, remote control, 2 batteries. $59. Yeah. Here's an action camera, Ultra HD underwater. I don't need underwater. I don't think I'm logged on. I think I am. Minus 33%. I'm going to add that to cart. No thanks. What's this? No. See, they try to sell you stuff. Well, anyway, I'm not buying it. I do things like that just so I remind myself that they actually have a camera like that. But yeah, I mean, so why should I buy a phone to use the camera when I could get for $60, get a camcorder, right? That I could just, with the 16-time zoom, right? So I could take pictures of bees on the flowers and the birds in the backyard and just plug it in here and, download the video or stills. Run it through QuickTime for free instead of using Adobe software. And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. It's like I have in my book, Then What? I showed you that budget, and I told you I have another page that's like the things that likes and dislikes and stuff like that. that you got to get yourself, you got to first of all make sure you're living in a place, because they're not going to solve this crime problem. The crime is just going to grow. The price of real estate, if you've got a house and it's some expensive place with a cul-de-sac and you're on one of those sit-down mowers, whatever, and and your job, and you're almost like a wage slave, even though you're making good money. It's like you're barely, at the end of the month, you're like just about breaking even, and you might even be pushing it with some credit cards. You ought to think about moving and, to an area that's safer and cheaper, where you have a little yard. Look, I live in a place, I tell people this all the time. Here's my backyard, okay? All that greenery and stuff you see, those are all food plants. Those are all vegetables, fruits and vegetables, all right? That's a south-facing yard, and that garage, it's like offset garage, and that blue little container there is like a water containment and a mini greenhouse I built there. All right? In fact, you can see I have a little solar panel on top of it that controls a fan in there because that gets hot. And you see my chair where I sit and soak up vitamin D. My taxes, mortgage, and insurance on this house is like $200 a month. Do you understand? You can't rent a place for that. People can't rent a place with roommates for $200 a month and have their own house. And it's technically a 2-bedroom house with 1.5 baths, and that yard. And I'm on the main street, kind of, but I'm at the edge of town. I'm on the outskirts of town, so I'm still in the city, within the city limits, but it's like, but because it's the main drag, it's safer than if I were, back in the, somewhere else. Because it's like high traffic. I mean, there's no traffic. It's a Sunday, and look at the streets. It's snow. But you can find places like this where you could have a mortgage, low mortgage. There's a beautiful apartment building across the street where I bet you could rent. It's a brick building, beautiful place. It's empty right now because the owner, she checks references, so she doesn't accept anybody in that place. And currently, and they're like plumbers, and they have a hardware store. So I mean, that place is in tip-top shape. You know what I mean? And those places probably rent for less than $500 a month. You see what I'm saying? So if you're a renter type of person and it's got off-street parking, right? Brick building, So, whether you buy a house and it's cheaper to own in areas like where I am. But I mean, you could also rent cheap too. So, I know a guy who's got a restaurant. It's mainly a pizza business, down the street from me, that's got an apartment above it. The apartment would need to be custom remodeled to any way you wanted to. But I mean, there was somebody living there before, but it's basically, he kind of gutted it out because he wanted to remodel it. But it's, it's good. The building's recently remodeled outside. The business does it's a very successful business. And it's possible to purchase that business for your payments would be somewhere around $1,200 a month. And you could either live above it or rent that space out and lower, you know what I mean? You see, there's opportunities like this. So it's like, you could even quit your job and come down and, and make $100,000 a year running that business, and just not even running it, that would be like hiring a manager to run it. And you could just live there and just keep an eye on it, make sure your manager, nobody's stealing money from you or something. Have some, video cameras or, meet with your manager, a couple times a week and stuff. You see what I'm saying? And basically live for free and have an income. Make 6 figures or at least 80 grand a year, something like that. Depends on how much you'd pay the manager. And that's the kind of stuff you can find all over this country if you get out of the big cities. But like I say, this is still a city. I'm just at the edge of town. I mean, there's golden opportunities here right now. But these opportunities aren't going to last, and that's what I'm saying. It's an election year, and things are going to systematically get worse, and worse. So, you have to you got to know what makes you happy, and you got to pursue that happiness, right? And I always say, the pursuit of happiness, it's you don't want it to be an endless pursuit. You just want to be happy. So find what makes you happy and be happy. And accept the fact that, there's not going to be anybody that's going to come, some political figure that's going to come back and change this country. Western civilization is fallen, man. Just look around. I mean, there's too many levels of how things are screwed up. That's what I'm trying to say. It's screwed up on too many levels. I mean, you have this ridiculous nightmare of, where is that thing? I lose track of everything. This.
Your papers, please.
Right? They haven't gotten rid of that yet, right? So, and then everything's, people are into this crazy, armchair general world. They just won't let war go. And there's crime at home, and the politicians are afraid of the gangsters. That's really what it amounts to. The mayor of Chicago, that's one of the highest crime areas in the country, if not the highest crime. The most murders, real bad crime. And she's scared shitless of the criminals. So she's not doing anything about it. In California, they won't even go, they let people go into stores and steal what? Up to $800 or $900 worth of stuff. They're afraid of the criminals. They won't go into, there's no-go zones in all these major cities, from New York to Philly to Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas, L.A., right? The list goes on. Miami, name a major market, and there's a no-go zone. There's gangs in every city, and they're all organized. And there's a couple, on average, a couple thousand people are murdered every week in this country. But even worse than that, because even in where I am, is healthcare, is the idea that 40,000 people are dying of things that are treatable, preventable, or even curable. But they won't tell us that. Instead, they say, we'll just cut it out. We'll cut out your gallbladder. They, feed us these things. Everything's got sugar and carbs in it, which is, just killing us. But they're advertised on TV. And it's not as if they can't do different things, And these nutritionists and doctors are few and far between, and the rich get the benefit of it, but we don't. I don't know what to buy. I don't know what to eat, I found out, there's this xylitol, which is a sugar substitute that I did some research on, and I use some toothpaste and whatever. I can't find xylitol anywhere as a sweetener. But one of the side effects of that xylitol is that it kills the bacteria that causes cavities and stuff like that. But again, I'm not giving you medical advice or anything of the kind. I'm just saying it's something I found in my research. But, you know, you don't hear anybody talking about stuff like that. I'm just giving you that as an example. You know, go down that rabbit hole yourself. Ask your doctor or whatever. If, like anything, they'll tell you what they told me about, like bile salts and stuff like that for my gallbladder. That's pharmacist said, well, that's a homeopathic thing. It might have some possible. You know, my doctor's like, well, I don't really. They talked to the surgeon that did my cancer surgery. You should have it cut out now. So you understand the position they put us in? And so people are donating money, getting crazed, and arguing over Ukraine and Russia, NATO, and stuff like that across the Atlantic. Right? And there's more people dying here every week from, you know, crime and diseases they shouldn't even be contracting. You know, I'm talking about dying, not just getting, right? And I'm not talking about that pandemic thing. I'm talking about things like type 2 diabetes, kidney disease, and heart-related diseases and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Stuff that's all mostly related to dietary and lifestyle type of stuff. Not to mention that, you know, the ridiculous amount of suicides there are in this country. And I know I repeat this stuff a lot, but I think it's a big deal because they're not talking about that on the media. Instead, they're showing you these tragic pictures of these poor people overseas, which are definitely tragic and are definitely those people my heart goes out to them. But you have to understand that the U.S. could end that thing within the next hour. All Biden has to do is, well, of course, he's in La La Land now, probably getting his blood transfusion or something, or in his oxygen tent. But all he has to do is call the Putin on the phone on the hotline, which they have. You know, we've got diplomatic hotlines, you know, to all the major countries, right? And say, look, man, I'm going to talk to NATO, or I just got off the phone with NATO, all right? And I told them that to stop any kind of war games, we're not going to participate in it. And, you know, we want you guys sitting down at the table, and we'll work to make sure that what Zelensky said about not having NATO expansion in Ukraine and the Donbass region being yours, that we'll be an intermediary to make sure that that's a sound, that, you know, that those documents get signed, and we'll, you know, you want a witness, I'll be there to be a witness. And we'll make sure that NATO's a signatory on that too, so that they sign it in public, in a public ceremony. And we'll bring in one of the guys from Brussels, EU, and make sure he signs it too. Give you the assurances you need. End of war. Okay? And then get back here and let's start curing these frickin' diseases. Build back better. You can't build back better without, you know, gasoline, diesel, and using heavy equipment. We're going to switch to electric. Yeah, electric what? Right? What's gonna make your electricity? Those millions of decaying bird killers, right? Solar panels. We don't have enough room for solar panels. And in the north with the snow, if I had solar panels on my roof like now, they wouldn't do anything. And my house, the footprint of my house isn't big enough to run a dryer. You know what I mean? My refrigerator, washer. You see what I'm saying? You know, down south, it's a different story. If you've got some hacienda and you've got some land. But like I'm saying, in general, do you ever see, like, you go to some of these resorts, you go to like down Florida way, like, I know I know people, I even have relatives who've had homes where they had on their roof, they had a swimming pool. And on their roof, they had a solar, like, hot water thing. You know, in other words, the sun heated the water, and then that was pumped in, and so it kept the pool water, you know, at a temperature so that the pool water wasn't whatever. But they still didn't have a big enough footprint to run their entire house electric and air conditioning on solar panels. And when you see these hotels and motels in these big resort towns, which Florida is chock full of resort towns and retirement homes, a lot of these things are similar to like skyscrapers. They have a fairly small footprint so that they don't have enough square footage on their roofs or on their grounds to run, you know, 48 units, 48 air conditioning units, HVAC systems, right? And full kitchens to feed those people. Or like a hotel that has like 200 rooms, but it's tall, right? And to run, every room, right? And the lounge and the kitchens and the bar and like the mini fridges in 200 rooms and stuff. The laundry service for the, where they clean the towels and the sheets. It's the same as like fixing the infrastructure and bridges, building steel girders and then hauling the girders and then cranes to raise these things. It's like, I don't understand how people could be so functionally illiterate. But then again, the government's come out and said the majority of people who's come out of school in the past 20 or 30 years are functionally illiterate. It's a tragedy. It's true, though. Those are government numbers. So, this is the world we live in, and, it's St. Patrick's Week, man.
It's the holiday season.
And yeah, it's like the holiday season. So, drink up, enjoy yourself, whatever. Have some green beer, a Guinness, whatever, a Guinness blonde, whatever you want. But just enjoy life, get your act together, and realize you're the master of your own destiny. Stop supporting a system that just wants eternal war, right? Big tech, big ag, big pharma, military contractors, Wall Streeters, right? Hey, big wake-up call, man. The market's going to crash after the election, The government's messing with Bitcoin right now. I did a show on that. We don't know what DARPA has, but I think they've got some super computers. They're on the verge of cracking that, cracking crypto. Crypto. Think about it. And they're already going after the exchanges to where it's like, someone gave me some crypto, and I don't drive anymore, so I don't have a license, right? I technically don't have that kind of ID, right? And so I was trying to log on to my to one of the exchanges to see if I got, because I can't find this, and it was asking me for ID, photo ID, and all this kind of stuff. So, like, they're already in the exchanges, so it's like, peer-to-peer, you could, like, do this, and I guess you could go through, there's ways of doing stuff through foreign countries and stuff like that. But, I mean, remember, they got their supercomputers and their spy satellites and Space Force and all this other stuff, man. Don't count on it. Don't count on crypto as like, you think it's going to be the future and say, These guys are going to surprise you. Apple came out with the MX Ultra chip and stuff. Everybody's coming out with crazy-ass chips. Computing power beyond belief right now. You know, within a couple of years, the processing power of computers, and not the stuff that they're going to give the public. If they're giving the public an MX Ultra chip, all right, that just like is mind-blowing, all right, in its processing power, you know, you imagine what DARPA has, all right? You imagine the experimental chips that are out there, the stuff they're using and stuff they're beta testing, and the Fed's getting into crypto and blockchain and all that. I mean, I know there's people out there going, I gotta know what he's talking about. I know, I'm a coder from old, you know, from the way back. I've been on the internet for 35 frickin' years, you know. Trust me. You know, be afraid, be very afraid. All right? So...
It's the holiday season. Good morning.
Anyway, visit my site, ROCKFLUX.com. You want to help support a guy out? Go to ROCKFLUX.com. Get one of my books. Get the print version. The Then What book will help you out. All right? Just if you just use those 2 budget sheets and the figure out worksheet for getting your act together. Great solar stuff isn't just solar, you know. I'm not downplaying the idea of having a personal solar panel or two, but you definitely should have some of these power packs, which are on for sale there, and get some of my gear, you know, my hats, my hoodies, my shirts and stuff. Heck, you can get a ROCKFLUX decal and put it on your frickin' bumpers, you know. Anyway, all the best. Take care. If you're somewhere where there's a lot of snow and ice and stuff like that, just stay in for the day. I wish you all the best of luck. Take care.